Welcome to DWBIADDA channel. Please subscribe for latest training videos.
Hello to you all. Today we're going through up and I'll make a retrospective, explain the whole logic and make some conclusions. So let's start. As you can see, we have 12 activities here, 3 fragment classes and 3 adapters. In layout folder we have XMLs and each XML represents a screen for one activity. We have some custom design objects here. Also we have pictures and other things that we implemented in our app. We have values here, our colors, diamonds, strings and styles. We have menu where we have our button navigation bar, and we implemented also some design animations to our design to make up our app looks nice. In assets folder we have font, custom font, which we are using through this application. When we talk about web services that we're using in our app, there are Firebase database. Also we have implementation of lot libraries like Picasso, Jojo, 64's Graph and Circle Image View, and as you can see it's a bunch of implementation libraries here. So now let's go and review the app so we can talk about everything that we learned through our code files. Let's open the main activity app, and as usually we firstly define some design objects and variables, then initialize them so we can use them later. You could saw through tutorials that I always use this pattern. I define my objects and variables here and I initialize it like this with initialize function, so I know that I've done that first and I can use every my data later. After that we have a most important part of every activity after initialization, where we are doing everything that we need to do in that activity, and that's the pattern which I use in all of these activities and classes. That's something of my choice, but I recommend you to do everything like this because it's good for your organization. Let's continue. We have, like we explained, simple register function which is built in Firebase and we use it from there. We have some conditions and successful or not successful depends what we will do next. Let's go to the login activity. Again, like I mentioned before, same pattern, and then we have function from Firebase where we are logging our user. We are getting user ID here and informing user if there is any error. After that we have profile activity. Profile activity is activity where we represent basic data about user. We have usage of circle image view, I'll show you, and Picasso library here. As you can see, we are showing also nickname and balance, and we're enabling user to choose where he wants to go next. He has 4 options here. So that would be it about profile activity. We are at the cards activity, and as you know, this activity is with very simple code. It's more about design when we talk about this screen. As you can see, here is the usage of my button with transparent background. That's my custom design object. I thought I mentioned why I done this like this. You can see the code, bunch of intents, and these intents lead us depending on what do we choose. Also we have a preparing function here that we are reading our data and from database so we can use them later. Also we have initialize function there like in every previous and next activity. Business activity is the brain of our application. We are receiving data and preparing it to later using here. As you can see, receiving data from intents. Many actions with a database like reading plans and investments we have here. As you can see, loading invested, loading plans. We have pop-ups for submitting investments and plans, and we have to update our values in a database. So as I said, this activity is the most important activity for the whole app. Point of this app is in business activity. It contains everything: reading, loading, updating, writing, receiving intents. We're at the statistic activity, where we are manipulating with fragments and connection between them and bottom navigation bar. As you can see, we are using get support fragment manager to begin transaction and to replace default fragment with selected fragment. Now we're going to talk about fragment classes. Fragment classes, which are possible to switch with navigation bar, contain different types of statistic representation of our financial situation. In fragment home, we have some basic review of our incomes and investments, plans and monthly finances. So as you can see, we have 4 options here. When we talk about incomes and investments, those are very similar to activities. Primarily task in these 2 activities is to read data from database and represent it transparent. We have a lot of calculations here, like calculating total sum of incomes, investments, average income, number of incomes, etc., etc. Same is for the investment. Again, reading, representing and calculating data. Now we're at the plans activity, where we are getting plans from database and showing them for each category especially. Also we have our animation here, design animation for sliding text view up and down. At the monthly activity, we have possibility to add and see monthly finances. In most of these activities, which I mentioned for fragment home, we are using recycler view to represent data, communicating with it by our adapters. 3 adapters, each one for a different category of data representation. As you can see, it's same pattern for everyone, but only difference is with item design for recycler view. Now fragment graphic display of financial situation. We're here using JoJo 64 library, and we have functions to show series and remove them. These functions are manually coded, so we can adjust them and customize if it needed. Also we have customized look of the graph. As you can see, we changed some colors, set some animations, and that would be it about graph. I explained how to implement graph, also that's very important. And we here have reading data from database and then implementing it to graph. In this fragment here we have some static text, so let's show layout. As you can see, we have some types and advices for saving your money. There are 3 options, and then we calculate how many money would be saved if we use that method of saving money. We use this activity to set limits for some of our categories. Also we are using edit text and getting text from them. We're using design animations like in the rest of the app when we talk about edit text. I mentioned this text input layout, like special layout for effects with edit text before. In add activity we can fill our account balance. We have also animated edit text, and that would be it about this retrospective of our app. We learned a lot of things through these tutorials. Some of the basics function that we went through this application are in 10th toast. We learned how to initialize objects and how to load data and write data to database. I want to say something about organization of this app. App is separated in 3 parts: registration, primary work and statistic. In registration part I include registration, profile, add and limit activity. The part where we upload our data to database, so we have something with which we can manipulate later. Primary work is business activity, where we are investing and making some plans, some adjustments to our financial situation. That is the most important part of our app. And then we have statistic, where we can see how our financial situation is going through the time. Also can see graphic display of our investments, incomes. We can have a review of a monthly financial situation, and that's plan where we are loading data and showing data from database which we before loaded and manipulated with it. Everything is planned to be connected so we can prevent errors in loading data and we can organize it. Point of this tutorial was to show you how to organize your app and connect activities. We learned almost everything about this separately, so I wanted to take a look at it as a whole and see how it is functioning. It's important to learn language and functions which you can use, but if you do not know how to arrange and organize activities in your app, you'll get stuck at some point. Do not focus strictly on one part of Android Studio. Try to look at every app as a whole and think one step in advance before you code something, so you can prevent errors and you don't have to code something twice because your plan is not good. I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned something about app organization. Until the next tutorial, thank you and goodbye.